Are you also Punjabi?
Good afternoon, everyone. I would like to invite you all to sit down. Probably some other people will join us in a few minutes, but in the meantime, I would like to start. So welcome to the second edition already of the Geneva Engage Awards. This is an initiative that was launched last year during the Geneva Engage conference. And the aim of Geneva Engage is to better connect international Geneva to the communities worldwide that are affected by the policies that are created here. My name is Barbara Rosen-Jacobson and I coordinate this Geneva Engage process. And one important aspect of this engagement, of this connectivity between communities and Geneva, is social media. And social media is very important in its potential to connect to thousands and millions of people worldwide and to inform them, to engage with them and to have a conversation. So for this purpose, we also have some YouTube watchers. They are over there. Welcome. Hello, YouTube. And we are live streaming this event to those who are not based in Geneva. So today we will hand out 3 awards. We will hand out an award for the best social media activities of a permanent mission, an international organization, and an NGO or non-profit. And the purpose of these awards is not only to shine a light on these amazing organizations, but also to share best practices among each other. And as these organizations will explain the key towards their social media successes. And afterwards, we will have a panel discussion on different initiatives and approaches to connectivity between Geneva and the rest of the world. And we have invited Diplomacy, GovFaces, and UNOC's Perception Change project. And afterwards, there will be an opportunity for you to share your knowledge in a more informal setting. After the event, we are organizing a reception upstairs in the attic. And this is organized with the support of the Canton of Geneva. And now I would like to give the word to DiploFoundation's director and head of the Geneva Internet Platform, Dr. Jovan Kurbalija, who will speak a few words.
Thank you. Thank you, Barbara. Good afternoon. Welcome, Excellencies, dear friends and colleagues. It's great to have you here at Geneva Internet Platform and DiploFoundation. And Barbara basically explained everything that should be explained. I will give you the few additional reflections on the context in which we are organizing this event. But the first few words about DiploFoundation and Geneva Internet Platform. DiploFoundation is a Swiss-Maltese foundation established in 2002 in Malta by 2 governments in order to do research, training and capacity building on impact of the internet on diplomacy. 3 years ago, DiploFoundation it was invited by Swiss authorities to establish Geneva Internet Platform and to run the Geneva Internet Platform, aimed to increase the exchanges on internet governance, mainly in digital policy in Geneva. And there are 2 aspects in our activities which are always interplayed and sometimes confusing. We consider internet as a tool for diplomacy, which is the main objective of today's event, social media, artificial intelligence, and internet as a topic on diplomatic agenda. Therefore, internet as a cybersecurity issue, data protection, and you name it and you have it. Those are 2 tracks in our activities which could be sometimes a bit confusing. The context for Geneva Engage conference is summarized in this drawing, which I guess you can see. It's quite small, but this illustration basically explains the major challenge that we face here. Around this building and the sort of in radius of 3 to 4 kilometers, you have the organization which make quite a few decisions of the relevance for the rest of the world. Most of you are part of this sort of processes and you understand it, what's going on from disarmament, human rights, digital policy, health, you name it and you have it. The main challenge is how to link this inner circle to the outer circle. We call it organized participation, therefore people outside Geneva following what's going on in Geneva in organized way. And the third circle is ad hoc participation, anyone with mobile or any other device. Now the real challenges we'll probably discuss today during the nomination and hearing why our award winners managed to win it is not necessarily technology. Entry point is very low. You can start using technology easily. The main challenge is how to create social, cultural, organizational context to link these three contexts, or to link what's going on in Geneva with the rest of the world. This is the broader backdrop for Geneva Engage discussion in general, and Geneva Engage Award in particular. We try to award and to encourage institutions who are trying to extend, if you can call it, Geneva digital footprint beyond just discussions in Geneva. We are particularly honored and pleased to have excellent cooperation, in particular with the Canton, Geneva Canton, who, today represented by Olivier Coutau, who will address us in a few minutes. Matthias Lofgren from the Diplomacy. Matthias will be part of the panel. The UN office in Geneva, today with us is Salman Bal from the office of the UN Director General, who will also say a few words about this context. Perception Change project, and I'm sure many of you who are trying to extend Geneva footprint and what's going on in two ways, both disseminating what is discussed in Geneva, but I would say even more important, hearing what are the concerns of outside communities that could be addressed in Geneva. We are all familiar with the bubbles all over the world and the impact of the bubbles on the global politics and national politics, and digital tools could help us to have the constant feedback and check what is going on in the world and what is the relevance, what we are doing here in Geneva for the communities worldwide. Without further ado, I would like to invite Olivier Coutau from the Canton of Geneva to address us. Olivier, please.
Thank you very much, Jovan. Very glad to be here with you today for this important event. The Canton of Geneva is a proud sponsor of this event. We were here already last year for the first edition of the Geneva Engage Awards. We are very grateful to the Geneva Internet Platform for having taken the initiative of organizing this second edition, because we believe that the issue at stake is important. It is important because International Geneva is not only about Geneva. International Geneva is also, and above all, about the whole world. People around the globe are affected by the decisions which are taken here in Geneva. And I believe that they should not be only affected, they should also be aware of it. They should also be able to engage in what is going on here in Geneva. Last week I did attend a debate at the Swiss Press Club, which was about the future of journalism and International Geneva. And one of the questions raised was whether the activities of international organizations were interesting for the general public. And you had one person saying, the activities of international organization is too technical, is too complicated. In one word, they are boring and they are not interesting for the general public. But I think that this assumption is clearly contradicted when you consider the number of people following the social media managed by international organizations. I've counted 7 Geneva-based organizations with a Twitter account followed by more than 1 million persons. I named them briefly: WHO, WEF, WWF, UNHCR, CERN, OHCHR, and ICRC. I hope that I do not forget anybody, but more than 1 million followers on the Twitter account. And I think that this probably represents a much bigger audience than the one reached by all the journalists which were present in the debate I was referring to. So I'm not trying to say that, of course, journalists in the role of independent intermediary between the international organizations and the general public are not necessary. I'm quite convinced of the opposite, of course. All what I'm saying is that, number one, there is an interest from the general public for the activities of international organizations. And second, that international organizations have found a way, thanks to the social media, to reach a very large audience. And not only to reach this audience, but to interact with this audience. So, social media are useful to international cooperation, to international Geneva as a consequence, and we should encourage their development. The Geneva Engage Awards are a contribution to this development, and I do hope that they are here to last. Unfortunately, the social media, Twitter is also a channel for very tragic news. We have just learned that 6 ICRC staff were killed in Afghanistan, and I did not want to end these remarks without a thought for them. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Olivier. I would like to invite Salman Bal from the UNOG office. Salman, could you say a few words about UN perspective?
Thank you, Jovan. Good afternoon to everybody. Olivier, when I was just listening to you that for journalists the issues in Geneva were technical, I don't think that there's anything more technical than CERN, but the Higgs boson article, the GOTS particle, makes it on front page of CNN and BBC, so there's somehow an interesting correlation there as well. Although it's so technical, it makes it there. With this, dear colleagues, first of all, Jovan, the team of the DiploFoundation, congratulations to this second annual Geneva Engage event, Geneva Engage Award, which is really a very welcome opportunity to discover the best practices and systemize the use of technology for e-participation to reach a new level of engagement across international Geneva. It's the second award, so we can't talk about the tradition. And Olivier just said traditions are to last. So we are looking forward to the coming years. What is debated in Geneva affects people worldwide. E-participation can increase the visibility and inclusiveness of the important work done across international Geneva, raising awareness about its direct impact on people everywhere and enabling us to listen to the voices outside of Geneva. It can improve accountability and help to restore trust through a wider and more direct participation. In short, e-participation has the potential to be a major enabler to change our way of doing business with a direct impact on our perception of the work done here. And if my colleagues from the perception change team are here, and they will talk about the perception change aspect more later. E-participation can also play a significant role in facilitating system-wide collaboration and the creation of new partnerships. In doing so, it can decisively contribute to the implementation of the SDGs. In Geneva, perhaps more than anywhere else, there's a great potential of e-participation for innovation in diplomacy. One area that comes to my mind is of course the internet itself, and here it will be interesting to see how e-participation will be used at the upcoming Internet Governance Forum, which will take place in December here in Geneva. Let me conclude by thanking the numerous actors of International Geneva who, through their outreach efforts, make sure that we don't remain in our Geneva bubble. Thank you for using the social media and e-participation so widely. But let me also thank the organizers of today's event, Jovan and his team, who make sure that social media and e-participation remain on our radar. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Salman, Olivier, and Jovan. We will now, we have heard about why it's so important that there is this event, but we would also like to put you to work, and we would like to test your knowledge on Geneva's social media behavior. My colleague Anna Andrievich will introduce this segment, but I would just like to prepare you here and online to grab your phones out of your pockets and to type in kahoot.it in your browser.
Hello, everyone. As you, I hope you have ever used Kahoot. If not, it's not very complicated. So the idea is just to go on the website of Kahoot. And then as soon as you are there, you just need to put this code. So I'll let you a few seconds to go on the website and to put the code.
You can be anonymous? Or?
Yeah, sure, you can put a fake name if you want to. So a few more seconds to connect and put your name or a fake name as you want.
Anyone having a problem to access? Technical systems?
Is it okay with the Wi-Fi? There is no code normally.
No, there is no. It's public.
Okay, so it's public, so you should just connect quite easily. Okay, so I propose to start. So let's start with the first question. So by the end of 2016, which NGO non-profit organization has the most Facebook page likes? We have 4 propositions for you. You can choose. The first one is World Wildlife Fund, World Economic Forum, International AIDS Society, or Global Fund. So you still have 7 seconds to decide. And the result is... So, yeah, you are all, well, the majority is right. So it's the World Wildlife Fund. Let's go on to the next question. Which international organization had the highest number of Twitter followers in 2016? United Nations High Commissioner for Refugees, CERN, World Health Organization, or World Trade Organization. So you have 22 seconds to answer. I won't know. And the result is, so you're again right, so it's the World Health Organization with 15 participants who are actually right. Second is United Nations High Commissioner for Refugees and CERN. Which permanent mission tweeted the most in 2016? United States, United Kingdom, India, or France? Oh, everybody answered quite quickly. So yes, the answer is France, not the United States as expected by the majority, unfortunately. let's go on to the next question.
Adeline is from France.
Which organization's number of Twitter followers increased the most in 2016? Permanent Mission of India, World Wildlife Fund, International Federation of the Red Cross, or International Committee of the Red Cross?
In absolute numbers or?
Absolute numbers. Seven seconds. So, again, okay, so some of you thought it was the Permanent Mission of India. Actually, it is the International Committee of the Red Cross. So Madeleine is doing pretty well. Which organization has posted most tweets in 2016? World Wildlife Fund, United Nations High Commissioner for Refugees, United Nations Office in Geneva, or the Permanent Mission of France? And the result is the World Wildlife Fund and not the United Nations High Commissioner for Refugees or the United Nations Office in Geneva. So yeah, next question. Madeleine, pretty well. Which international organization's Facebook posts were most often shared in 2016? International Committee of the Red Cross, United Nations High Commissioner for Refugees, World Health Organization, or UNAIDS? And the answer is United Nations High Commissioner for Refugees and not, unfortunately, the World Health Organization. So next question. 99.6% of which organization's tweets are retweeted? United Nations Office in Geneva, International Union for the Conservation of Nature, World Economic Forum, International Labour Organization.
My insider information.
The answer is the World Economic Forum, so the majority voted for this one, which is pretty great. And whose nickname? Okay, next one. Which international organization's Facebook posts were most often shared in 2016? International Committee of the Red Cross, United Nations High Commissioner for Refugees, World Health Organization, or UNAIDS? And the answer is the United Nations High Commissioner for Refugees, which is also the majority. Nickname. So I guess we won't know who it is. Oh, well done. Thank you very much for participating.
I think we need a round of applause for nickname. It's a beautiful nickname, I have to say. So now we are going to the serious part of this event. If you could. the awards. So before we are going to announce the award winners, we are first going to tell you how we got there. And we conducted a social media analysis, and I will explain in a minute how we did that. So first we made a short list of organizations. There are so many NGOs, international organizations, permanent missions here. So we needed to know which ones were worth the effort of analyzing in further detail. So we made a short list based on three criteria. First of all, because we did an analysis of both Facebook and Twitter, they had needed both a Facebook and a Twitter account. And second, we only took those with a significant presence on social media, which meant in this case that for international organizations, this would be a criterion of at least 300,000 followers on Twitter and Facebook combined. For NGOs and non-profits, this number was set as 50,000, and for permanent missions, this was 9,000. And the headquarters of these organizations had to be in Geneva or Vaud. So, for example, we could not take into account UNICEF or UNESCO because their headquarters are somewhere else. So we made a short list of these organizations. Well, you will hear from me the nominees at a later stage. And we analyzed them in 3 groups, according to 3 groups of indicators. So first of all, we had popularity, which includes a number of Twitter followers, the number of Facebook page likes, as well as the number of Facebook post likes, so the likes on the separate posts of these organizations. Then we had activity and dissemination, so the number of shares of Facebook posts, the percentage of tweets that were retweeted, and the number of tweets that they posted in 2016. And then we also analyzed the growth, because we want to know who to look out for in 2017 and 18. And we analyzed this according to the number of the additional Twitter followers, so the absolute growth of the Twitter account, as well as the relative growth of the Twitter account, the percentual growth in Twitter followers. So we conducted this social media analysis. Each indicator weight has equal weight. And we compared the different organizations within their category. So within the category of international organizations, within the category of permanent missions, and within the category of NGOs and non-profits. A total score could be achieved of 800, but I have to say the winner with the highest score was 561, so not even close, because the competition is fierce, and whereas one organization might have the highest number of Twitter followers, another organization might have the highest number of tweets in 2016. So now we are arriving at the official part of this ceremony. So I would like to invite Jovan, Kurbalija, Olivier, Coutau, and Salman Bal to join me here.
Okay, here, I guess. Yeah.
Yes. So I will read to you the jury report of the nominees and the winners. So, starting with the category of international organizations. So there were a number of strong contenders in the international organizations category. While the World Health Organization gathered a large following on Facebook and Twitter, UNHCR interacted effectively with its followers and posted most tweets throughout the year. The UN office in Geneva's tweets were so engaging that 92.3% of them were retweeted, and the ICRC's following on Twitter grew with almost 1 million followers. But the winner is the World Health Organization.
For Eurochat artistic part of that. Congratulations.
Thank you.
There is a tradition in making.
So a few words about the World Health Organization. With more than 6 million followers on Facebook and Twitter combined, the WHO created dynamic media content for the online community on topics ranging from smoking to mental health, and provided practical information on preventing flu and hypothermia, as well as drawing the public's attention to infectious disease outbreaks in developing countries. Congratulations. So next is the category of NGOs and non-profits. So in this category, the World Economic Forum and the World Wildlife Fund were head-to-head when it comes to Facebook and Twitter followers. While the World Wildlife Fund posted a very large number of tweets throughout the year, the World Economic Forum's Facebook posts were shared almost 9 million times. Web's success in disseminating content is also mirrored in the high percentage of its tweets that were retweeted, which is 99.6%, a higher percentage than any other organization. In the future, both organizations might have to look out for the International AIDS Association, as this is the NGO of which the percentual growth was the largest in this category. But the winner is the World Economic Forum. So the World Economic Forum, with almost 6 million followers on Facebook and Twitter combined, masterfully incorporates videos, infographics and fact sheets to explain complex yet extremely relevant economic issues, such as universal basic income and the future of employment as influenced by the development of emerging technologies. And then the final category is permanent missions. And within this category, there were many potential contenders. The European Union has a large following on Facebook, while the USA has most Twitter followers and Facebook shares. Last year's winner, France, has posted most tweets throughout the year. Yet 2017 might become India's year, as its Twitter's following grew with 196.4%, which is very large. But the ultimate winner is the permanent mission of the United States of America. So the US mission to the UN in Geneva, on both its Facebook and Twitter pages, they post useful information on US-related events in Geneva, but also about issues of international importance, such as human rights and gender equality. The posts on the mission's Facebook page were liked and shared more than 25,000 times in total, making it the most popular permanent mission on Twitter, with a following of almost 15,000 Twitter followers. So now I would like to invite the winners, starting with Sari Setiogi, head of the social media and media monitoring at the World Health Organization, to provide a presentation on the secrets to their success.
Thank you so much. We are very honored to be here again for the second year. Thank you so much on behalf of WHO and the rest of the team. So when Barbara reached out to me, she asked, maybe share one campaign that we did last year or a secret. So there's actually no secret. We don't have a secret recipe, but it's just knowing your audience, knowing what's your strength. So let me start how we use social media. Like what Olivier said earlier, social media is everywhere. So we do have potential to reach people across the world, beyond Geneva. This is from a refugee camp. And this is our accounts. We have 11 accounts, and across those 11 accounts, We have 8 million subscribers. And what do we do on social media? It's our online spokesperson. So when our spokesperson are talking to journalists, we are talking to the public. We are talking to people through our social media channels. So increasing shareability, secret number 1, know your strength. What is WHO strength? Health information, health data. The one on the left was from World Cancer Day, 4th of February. Very simple advice, how to reduce your risk from cancer. And it got shared organically more than 3 million times because people find it's useful. It's helpful for them. It's informative to share to their friends, their family. The one on the other side, it's our fact sheet. It's not colorful, it's text only, but it goes to our fact sheet which have basic information, what is pneumonia, what causes it. And it reached also a lot of people, more than 700,000 times, also organically. So knowing your strength, what people want to hear from you. And the next one is know your audience. Know where are your audience, who they are, what do they expect from you. This is when our Facebook page reached 3 million followers. So we asked a question, what kind of content that people are actually expecting from us? And we got the results. So meaning on social media, this is what people are expecting from us, the highest infographic. Maybe that's not the same for the website, but for social media, this is what people are looking from us. And when you shorten your URL, I hope most of you are doing that on your Twitter, on your Facebook, you can find out where people actually access your content the most. And in our case, it's from mobile. So what does it mean? Then you can tell your web team, your content on your website have to be mobile friendly. Does anyone know, can guess here, what is our most popular video? Anyone? Anyone ever heard? Yeah. I had a black dog. See, some of you ever heard about this. It's about mental health. It's about depression. So it's been viewed more than 7.3 million on YouTube and 4 million on Facebook and more on Twitter as well. It's an animation. It's from a first-person account, an illustrator in Australia who experienced himself depression and how he went through that. So a lot of people can relate, and they share it and they watch it. So this is also, from here we learn that mental health issue is a topic that a lot of people can relate to. You see the depression and anxiety number globally we know is increasing. So that's why on 7th of April, our World Health Day, we're actually going to talk about depression. We want people to talk more. Don't keep it to yourself, but let's talk. So that's 7th of April, don't forget. We have different posters with different culture, different nationalities. Another secret, be creative. Understand what is happening out there in the social media world, how you can tap on it. Not always, but sometimes you can. And sometimes it doesn't take a lot of money, sometimes it doesn't take a lot of time, sometimes it doesn't cost anything even. So here's one example. Here's for World Toilet Day video. Can we play the video? It's, no, it's not this one. Okay. Sorry. But this video is 36 seconds. It's done like 5 o'clock on a Friday night. It's just our colleagues, basically in the Department of Communication. And, sorry. Just Instagram. Sorry for the delay. So what we did was basically a mannequin challenge video. And what we were saying, if only the urge to go to the toilet can be frozen like a mannequin challenge. Simple message, but it was actually the most shared video on our Instagram. We did that in less than 10 minutes, and we actually achieved a good result.
How many views?
More than 17,000 on Instagram, and also we shared on Facebook and on Twitter. So just use your creativity. I mean, it doesn't have to be complicated, but at that time, Mannequin Challenge is popular on social media, so try to tap on that. Maybe not on all the causes, but some topic you can do. So there's someone who trying to pull the paper, toilet paper. Someone just came from the toilet, and when you actually listen to the sound, and there's someone who has the urge to go to the toilet. Yeah, I can go back. Thank you. And we also have different types of video. Some are produced more like a PSA format, but the one on the right, it's taken with mobile phone from Syria. So you can use different format, different shape. It doesn't have to be polished. It doesn't have to be shiny. And one thing that we learned, last year we've been working quite closely with Facebook and a company called Action Sprout. And they convinced us that actually when we see something is working on Facebook, on Twitter, we should share again. So here's an example. This is something that we shared in December 2015. It's about universal health coverage. One infographic. And then here, August last year, so like 9 months later, 8 months later, we shared again exactly the same infographic. The first one was shared almost 500,000. It reached more, almost 500,000. And then the second one, more than 200,000. So the appetite is still there 9 months later. And then we shared again, and it was still shared more than it reached still more 250,000 times. So in total, it reached almost 1 million people. So if it works, share again, because obviously people find it useful. So why not? And that's it for me. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you. I would like to invite you, if you have any questions for Sari, then now is the time to ask them.
Right then.
No questions?
Just one question. What is the geographical distribution of your audience?
It's
What's
global.
the model?
It's global, and it changed from time to time. For example, during particular outbreak or emergency, usually we have an increasing followers from that country or that region, and then that could change later on. So it's always moving.
There is no any general trend.
Well, US, because I mean, I think in general, it's quite a lot of the social media users are from the US, but we also got quite a lot from India, Nepal, Pakistan, for example. But it tend to change from time to time. Any other question? Nope. Yes. Oh, sorry.
Following up on that question.
Yeah.
Do you use all of the UN languages?
Not on day-to-day basis. Mostly we use English, but for big, like World Health Day, for example, we also tweet in other languages. Also during outbreaks or emergency where there is like a local language or a language that is more relevant in some region, we use that. The reason behind we don't yet jump into the UN official languages is because we believe social media doesn't stand alone, but it should come with the monitoring. And our team is 3 people. 1 person is doing traditional monitoring, and social media is basically me and my colleague. We speak different languages, but not all 6 UN languages. So we can monitor some, but not all. And we believe once we jump in different languages, we should also have the capability to monitor the questions, to respond to questions in those languages as well. Yes.
Okay. Let's in the back.
I would like to know about the level of the language. Do you know how that impacts the followers? If you have more, because what Olivier said, some things might be too complicated, too complex, and boring for the global audience, and do you adapt it depending on the topic?
Yeah, actually, one thing that we observe that sort of like change the organization culture after social media is being introduced is the language of the material that is produced by the organization also change. Because we've been advocating internally within WHO that if you want your content to be on social media, then the language has to be fit for layperson. And we are also very selective in terms of what we post on social media. So when it's complicated technical guidance, probably it's not for social media. Probably it's for LinkedIn, for example. But particularly for Twitter or Facebook or Instagram, we stick to something that really matters to the public.
Okay, let's give a round of applause to Sari and the WHO. And now I'd like to move on to Michael Hanley. He's the head of the digital communications team and member of the executive committee of the World Economic Forum.
Hello, everybody. My name's Mike. I work with the World Economic Forum. I haven't got a presentation because I think the best way to show you what we do is basically show you our platform. So we're going to go first to our website and then to our Facebook page. But we've grown a lot in the last 3 or 4 years, the strategy being that we want to have a powerful voice as powerful as possible in the issues and the challenges where the forum has an initiative or a project. And in order to have a voice, you have to have a platform which has traffic, and you have to have followers, and you have to have people who understand what you do and why you do it. So in order to get to where we are now, which is we have about 5 million unique visitors a month to our website. We have 3 million followers on Facebook and about the same on our main Twitter channel. In order to get there, we needed volume of content in particular, because you can't, there's nothing you can, if you don't have content, you can't share it, and if you can't share it, nobody is going to follow you. So we started with a very small volume of blog posts that we were producing in-house. We went from 1 or 2 a week, and they were usually quite PR driven by our partners or our members writing about something that concerned them. We increased that volume to about 40 or 50 posts a day. And we did that by, what we do is we struck up partnerships with institutions, academic organizations, universities, central banks, media organizations around the world who all publish content that strikes a chord with us and with our audience. And so if we go to the forum's website, you can see, so this piece here, what happens when we can predict crimes before they happen, is a piece that was written for us by Robert Mugger, who's one of our constituents. He's one of 50 pieces that we would have published this week. If you go to Agenda here, which is kind of our brand for our content, you can see that we publish content across a whole bunch of topics and ideas. So just click on that one for me. On the tab. Well, here we go. So this piece was published by The Conversation, which is a media partner of ours. The Conversation is an organisation based in London, which has partnerships with academic universities across the UK, and in fact is an Australian brand. But they have partnerships with universities where academics write about all sorts of topics. So antibiotic resistance is increasing. Here's what we have to do. I believe this is a piece that could be certainly publishable by us, by our friends here at the World Health Organization. This is a point of view on a topic that many of us in this room could easily publish. The fact that it's not ours doesn't bother me. What matters to me is it written well? Is it shareable? Has it got content that people are interested in? So we publish this on our website, and then we use that as fodder for our social channels. And we follow a particular our operations are quite, we structure them as a factory. So as I said, we publish 50 pieces a day. So I have a team of people scouring scouring media partnerships across the world for pieces like this, which are appropriate for us to publish. They then copy and paste them onto our platform. They find can you scroll down there? They'll find a shareable, which is an infographic or something. Keep going down. I'm sure we'll find a picture in here somewhere. Maybe not in this piece. There you go. The exception is the one that proves the rule. But every piece usually has an infographic or something that makes it shareable, so that when you share it on Facebook, people have something to motivates them to share it with their friends or their colleagues. And that was the first. So volume of content has been the first phase of our growth. The second phase of our growth, which has been the last 12 months really, has been video. So if you could go to our Facebook page now, and now we publish 2 or 3 new videos a day, and those videos are short, less than a minute each, and they're made up of maybe 10 plates which tell the story. So if you could click through to, oh boy, okay, so here we go. The cost of renewable energy has plummeted. As you can see, this video that's playing, This will be a story that we found on one of our 50 blogs that we found today to republish. I got a couple of people who break these blogs down into stories, maybe templates. Solar is now the cheapest form of renewable power. Half of all new investment in energy infrastructure goes into renewables. Templates. You've told the story. It's shareable. It's easy to absorb. You can look at it without the sound on the subway, share it with your friends, and show them how clever you are. And video for us, as I said, we publish 2 or 3 videos a day, new ones, and then we repost old ones which have done well. Each of our videos now gets, if we don't get 100,000 views, it's a failure. And a lot of our videos get 250 to 500,000 views. So it's is it cheap? It's good value, as it were. It costs a lot of money to do, but actually the return on investment is quite high because it spreads far and fast. And since we started increasing our video volume, we've seen our Facebook following triple, from less than 1 million to 3 million. As you can see, it's brought me here today to pick up a wonderful award. So thank you very much. Oh, happy for questions if you have any. Oh, yes.
Thank you for the presentation. Yes, the video. So you said that you have a couple of people working on the videos.
Mm-hmm.
So practically, how does it work?
Yeah, okay, so every morning we have an editorial meeting, 9:30 to 10 o'clock. We look at what worked well yesterday, and we look at the slate of what's coming up for today. We might choose, the biggest challenge is finding ideas. So what we do is we have if you go, we have a website, it's wef.ch/submitabuzz. If I have an idea or I see a piece or a blog or something that I think would make a good video, I can go to that site, and as can anyone in the forum or in fact anybody in this room, and submit the idea, which then gets put onto a sheet which goes to our editorial meeting in the morning, and then we sit around and we say, okay, Mike has this idea about wind and solar power became cheaper than fossil fuels. Do we think it's going to work? Does it fit with the forum's editorial line? Are we going to get a call in the middle of the night from one of our partners saying we've insulted them? We discuss all these things, and then we will choose 2 or 3 ideas a day to produce. Those ideas then go off to the team. So we have a team of people who write blogs as well as scripts. So somebody will say, I'll take the fossil fuels script, and we have a template, and the template is very simple. It's like what words are going to be on each plate, and they will draft the script. A couple of people will look at it, make it hopefully better over the process, and then it goes to a video producer who will put the images behind the words, basically. That's
The producer is in-house?
One's in Spain, one's in London, wherever they're cheapest and best. Yeah. Yeah.
It's quite an impressive number you post every week on blogs and videos. How many people are you? And have you increased over the last years? Have you increased also your visibility?
So we don't increase total headcount numbers, but what we have done is we've repurposed people from doing other things. So the in-house team is about 8, and then we work with an agency in London who provide us with skills like script writing, blog writing, shareables, headlines, social media copy, and we have a very complicated. Not complicated, but it's built up a process around drafting social copy, checking it for accuracy and bloopers and editorial correctness, and then buffering it to schedule it into social.
So 8 is social media that you have information press on.
So that 8 is split between the blog team, who we do 3 types of things, 3 types of editorial product. We have third-party content, where we will we'll take it from one of our content partners, we'll use the copy, we'll add a shareable and a headline. We write our own stuff. So we'll have ideas like this idea here might well have been, our ideas will come from all sorts of places, like maybe this is 2 or 3, you'll find, you know, in the digital media space, 2 or 3 different media outlets will write the same story one day. So we'll look at that idea and then we'll write our own take on it and use our own data or the data from some of you in this room or something to make the story as good as possible. So that's 2 out of the 3, and then the third is our constituents, people who come to our meetings and things will write for us, and so the team will edit those and make them into socially, digitally shareable stuff that works. So there's a team of people who do that editorially, there's a team of people who do the video work, and there's a team of people who do social media copy and drafting.
You mentioned it's good value for money. How do you measure value?
Well, what we do is, okay, so we use metrics to make sure that everything we do gets better results than stuff we did last week. So when I say it's good value for money, we've got more followers, more engagement, more shares from video than any other activity that costs an equivalent amount of money. So that's what I mean, whether it's the best way to spend that much money in the world, I don't know, but it's certainly better than anything else that we know in the social or digital space. And the way we know that is we check how many people share it, we check, you know, when I say we have our editorial meeting in the morning and we figure out what worked yesterday, we have what we call a balanced scorecard. So it's how many unique visitors did we get to the website yesterday, how many page views, how many shares on Facebook, how many views in Spanish, Chinese, all adds up to a number that goes up and down. And so the idea is that we want that number to go up and up and up. And so we're always looking at what we did last week and making sure that what we do this week is better value than what we did last week. Yeah.
You mentioned that you focus on what interests people. So how do you decide what interests people?
We look at the numbers. So,
from what sources?
So page views, if it's a blog post, page views on the blog post, views on video views, shares, comments, likes. So
any kind of topic.
On any kind of topic. That's it. But we, it's not as if we will not publish on one topic because we get more views on others. Otherwise, we'd just be publishing on sex, although pretty much that's not the way it works. We publish on everything, but we make sure that the content that we publish is as shareable and as interesting as it can be. And the way we ensure that diversity of topics is that we get ideas from across the organisation and from across the. We know what interests our audience, basically. Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Mike. And we have one winner left. I would like to invite Thomas Pierce. He's the Counselor for Public Affairs at the Permanent Mission of the USA to the UN in Geneva.
Well, first of all, thank you very much for this honor, and I'm going to actually retilt this a bit because of all the interest in video, a little bit more onto video and how we did video, because it's a little bit in common with what WEF does, but also a little bit different. Also, I'm going to talk a little bit more about bilateral things. I've only been in Geneva a few months. Before that, I've always worked at bilateral at embassies in countries where I think it's a little bit different because you can customize the message and the video a little bit more. And it might be a little bit easier for measuring metrics, at least in smaller countries, because your audience is actually right there in front of you, so you might often get more immediate feedback than you would get in Geneva. So if you can go back to the first slide, first? Yeah, thank you. Somebody had a version of this up before, the social media explained by donuts. The only reason I put this up now is because sometimes you might have somebody in your mission who is extremely gifted at something in particular, whether they're a photographer or an artist. One thing that drove our social media in Athens was our ambassador was a very good painter, extremely good, and so he posted on his. He wasn't very vocal, he was very introverted, but he was such a good painter that this actually wound up driving a lot of traffic to our page. It wound up being an incredible coup because he was traveling around the country doing paintings, putting up between 1 and 5 a week. He had an exhibition done of his work, and I've never really seen something like that take off so quickly. It also just, was very authentic because he was obviously not being paid to paint. It was something he just loved doing. And I wanted to use the example of another country because everyone expects the US to come up and just talk about ourselves. But I thought Finland, where I've actually gone to visit their public diplomacy center, if we can look at that Instagram feed. This is interesting. You can see they have 176,000 followers. They curate this collection of photographs, if you can scroll down, they're taken by professional and non-professional photographers, and they have had enormous success with this. This took off. They didn't expect this to be very popular. They thought it'd be a very kind of boutique-y type thing, but this has actually led them to a new thing where they have different people take over the Finnish Foreign Ministry's video feed, so that make videos every few months for the ministry. Now, we couldn't do that in the US because it's a different culture, but it's something that really works for them. If you can click on one of the photos, because some of them are just, any one of them is okay, if it expands, yeah. So you can see there, a little description of the comment. I think that one thing that's amazing about social media we haven't really talked about is the participatory aspect. You can see what have you put out there that might elicit a reaction that you didn't expect? Sometimes it can be something you think is really good that people don't really care for. Other times it's something you thought was incidental, but that they actually did really like. If you can go back to the slide. The next slide, there. So, that one, good. This is hard to see. It's Kenneth Patchen. He's a beat poet and artist from the 50s in the U.S. And it says, "Caring is the only daring. Oh, you know it," which is basically like, why you have to show that you care about what you're putting out there, and think about what does your audience care about. It has to be relevant to them. It has to sort of be something that kind of seduces them, that think, hey, this has some relevance for me. I think one thing that's hard in Geneva is that we talked about the discussions can be quite technical, and that's true, but I think there's a lot of sense of these organizations have often been here for many years. How do we show their relevance? And I think what social media can do, especially at a time when there's a lot of doubt around the world, especially in the West, about the value of multilateral organizations, and that to say, hey, these matter because they do the following things. And the way that you do that is, next slide, please, through telling stories. So this is a great old cave painting from what is now France. And it is a hunting scene, and this obviously, when you come down to it, is what we're all doing, which is telling the story, which is not just giving facts and figures, but also telling a particular story about something. And sometimes it's clear. We could say, here is a child who is saved by an inoculation campaign that WHO did, and that's cool. Sometimes it's a more oblique story. Sometimes you're trying to get to a point where you're trying to nudge people into having a particular realization. That's where I think video can come in handy. But I think that for us right now as practitioners, it's really important for us to urge people in our organizations who might be more risk averse. This is a big problem in foreign ministries. I think also international organizations. You have people who are very wary about social media, who are very worried about something that could be seen as not consonant with the goal of the organization, and they want to play it safe. I think this is something that we have to push back against. I think that this is a very competitive world for people who have limited hours in the day, and how do you get people to look at your thing and not at something else? I think that WHO, the Black Dog video was so good. It was just so well done. It was irresistible. I know I shared it. It was irresistible. The director of the Metropolitan Museum in New York told his social media team when he was hired, he said, I want you to make the museum irresistible. And the Met, I think, has several 100,000 followers, and sees their social media not just as an add-on, but also as the way that most people will actually visit the museum. That most people who interact with the Met will only do so through the website and through social media, and not actually ever walk through the door. So sees it as very central to what they do. They also use it strategically. They used, I think it's Weibo, the Chinese Facebook, to drive traffic of Chinese visitors to the Met to try to increase the number from 1% to 5%, which they did over a series of about 5 or 6 years. And again, they did this through stories, telling stories about the works in the collection and showing Chinese tourists who are in the Met and giving their impressions of it afterward. I'd like to show one video. If you can just go to, go to YouTube and just go Insider's Guide and then Pioneer Town. Insider's Guide, yeah. And it's a Pioneer, just Pioneer Town. P-I-O, yeah, thanks. So this is thank you. If you can just click on this, I'll show you, and we'll start it in a second. If you can just pause it for now. So we did this quite a bit differently. We had strategized, we wanted to do a tourism promotion program. How do places, if we think of tourism as just trying to convince people who have limited time and limited money to come to your place and not somewhere else, which is really what tourism is. Then we wanted to look at, and this was at my last post in Athens, a big issue because it was the #1 industry in a country that was really suffering. But we thought, we could do a video that was about the U.S., but that basically nudged people and showed them how 3 different places, convince people to go there. Don't look at the 257. This is not the normal place that we look. We had about, we didn't have anything like what WEF has, but we had about 28,000 views, which was good for us. So I think the last thing, and this is what I think is essential with video, is not only is it where you need to be because you have to compete, but this is the most seductive thing. This is what people look at. This is what people want to see. They don't just want to have facts and figures or someone talking at them. They want to have a story. So again, this was a story, a very particular case of a place out west that is a set for a lot of movies. So it's a short video, it's 4 minutes, so I just like to show this. There's sound, right? Yeah. Oops. Anyway, there doesn't seem to be sound. But you can. The other thing that's essential to do is someone asked about languages. Oh. We hired a firm that used a drone to do this.
Fell in love just because of the sunsets and the way that the light casts itself upon the mountains. It's a gift to live out here.
Pioneer Town was built originally as a movie set. There were about 200 Western films filmed here. Gene Autry, Roy Rogers, Dick Curtis, those are kind of the players here. Today, it's a historical site, but it is a functioning main street.
The first time I came here was in 1976. In the Papillon area, it was called the Cantina. It was a total outlaw biker bar. And it was the only time I've ever had two people here, and the bartender in my face going, "Why are you here?" curiosity. And then when Linda and Robin bought the place in 2002, they really put it on the map.
A lot of bands on tour are now stopping in Pioneertown, and it's becoming a destination because of that. So it's an interesting melting pot of people who are interested in like Western film culture and like music fans that come up to see their favorite bands play in an intimate setting, and that, you know, keeps us up to date with what's going on in the rest of the world.
We're basically sitting in the middle of one of the biggest protected pieces of land, which is very, very unique.
Right now we're on what we call the Agua Caliente Indian Canyon. This is kind of a natural preserve. The Indians leave this in its native state. A lot of the riders we get out are doctors, lawyers. They want to get away from everything. They come out with horses and they feel a connection, and basically they recharge their batteries.
So you can stop it there. It's okay. You get a sense of it, and basically what somebody said about using what you have and what your particular strength is, and building on that. This cost is part of a series of 8. The whole project cost $80,000 one videographer and one person to do the interviews, and then post-production back in Athens. So I'm happy to talk more about this. This was part of a pretty big video series that we did. The work we do here for video is actually not that much cheaper given the costs in Switzerland, but is more about actual meetings. But I think what's essential is that this was actually picked up by schools of tourism to use about how places market themselves, which was what we were looking for. So basically for me, the lesson from this was trust your audience. It's going to understand the message you're trying to send. Thanks.
Are there any questions for Todd? Yes.
In terms of the audience here, who do you kind of, target? Is it kind of US people, citizens back in the US, or is it kind of an international audience?
Oh. That's a really good question. That's something I've been struggling with here, is who exactly are we trying to reach? And the second part, of course, is how do we measure the success of that? Especially because in Geneva you're dealing with hyper-educated people who often know far more about the issue than I will. But I think that for me what it is basically articulating why this matters at a time when there's a lot of skepticism about the continued value of multilateral institutions. And I think that's true, and we do try to reach the American audience, but I want to say, hey, this is why an organization like the World Meteorological Organization matters, and why you would notice the lack of it in your life. And so if we see something that an international organization has published, we'll share that. We also will do things like resolutions at the Human Rights Council. We'll put those out there. One thing we have to be careful of with that is we always check with the U.S. Embassy in that country. We had an issue where we were going to publish something on Burundi, but there was actually a demonstration happening at the very same time at the embassy in Bujumbura, the U.S. Embassy, and so we didn't do that because we thought, we don't want to inflame things right outside the mission. But it's a lot of times clarification. This is the transcript of a particular statement that somebody made, or here's an initiative you might not know about. But the thing is, I'm getting more comfortable with that, with basically what our role is, kind of projection and promotion, and why these institutions are important. What I am struggling with is, again, trying to measure, well, who cares? Why does this, are people gonna, how is this information, how is our social media campaign serving our interests, and why does it need to be expanded? And I think that's a lot easier in a bilateral context than it is in a multilateral one, But I think that the answer is somewhere around that, showing the value of multilateral diplomacy and of the work that is done here. And I think in Geneva, you're often at 30,000 feet. But when you look at sort of what UNHCR, IOM do, you know, it's extraordinary, you know, but like it's kind of hard sometimes to draw that line. And both those organizations do a really good job of it through social media, from the kind of this elevation to the actual, you know, refugee on the Isle of Lesbos getting the blankets that they wouldn't have if it weren't for what IOM was doing. And I think social media is a huge part of that. And I think video, especially with new generation, is a key way of getting that point across. Thank you.
Are there any other questions? No? Okay, then I think we can have a round of applause for all the winners. I
will invite the panelists.
Yes, maybe we can have 5 to 10 minutes to stretch our legs after this very serious component, and then afterwards we will have some fresh brains to really think about what this all means for social media.
5 minutes?
5 minutes.
30 seconds.
Yes.
Okay.
Counting.
Good. Everybody, it's dangerous. I always feel bad when I have to interrupt such interesting discussion and dynamics and buzz in the room. But we have to continue with. Matthias, could you join us, please? Sorry to interrupt. Okay. Good. When is John Mark?
He should be here.
Okay. Good. We just heard great stories of the amplifiers of Geneva message with all certainty, uncertainty, soul searching. What is the purpose? Does it matter? What is the impact? And we are particularly grateful for the winners and all shortlisted candidates for the award for putting the efforts and extending the Geneva message and what's going on in Geneva to the rest of the world. And the second part of our panel is aimed to discuss in a way few important projects that we have currently in Geneva, but also to do a bit of brainstorming what we can do for the future developments. For example, how we can help small institutions, small organizations, small missions to extend their footprint and to help to engage the audiences back in their capitals. It is going to be one of the main aims of our activities of Geneva Engage during the 2017. We are particularly pleased to have today with us as a panelist Aziate Poltier-Mutal, head of the Perception Chain project. Welcome, Aziate. Perception Chain project, as you know, is contributing enormously towards improving the perception or increasing the awareness about UN-related activities in Geneva and beyond. Next to Aziate is Matthias Lufkens, founder of Diplomacy and partner for today's activities. All of you know Matthias quite well. He has enormous following on Twitter, and he is one of the focal points among diplomatic missions and ministries of foreign affairs when it comes to diplomacy. And Jon Mark Wals is the CEO of Gov Faces, one of innovative initiatives for making the links between Geneva and the rest of the world. As Thomas indicated very visually, how we should make the link and the line between what's going on in Geneva, sometimes abstract, sometimes technical, with the needs of the people worldwide. All of us need a different to put our efforts together and to combine our unique skills and expertise. Without further ado, I would like to invite Matthias to kick off with a few reflections. What we can learn from diplomacy, what is your experience, and in particular, what would be the message what Geneva Engage can do in order to assist small countries and small organizations to increase their digital footprint. Matthias, you can, whatever format you prefer,
Does it work?
Yes, or I guess, or
yes. Yeah, no, we've heard from these amazing organizations. I'm a bit biased because I was at the World Economic Forum and exactly 10 years ago this year, I set up the Davos Twitter account at the time. Luckily, I didn't have to write a strategy, but look where they are now. I'm very, very proud of that team, and that is 10 years ago. And I'm happy to see that most missions today are embracing social media, be it Twitter or Facebook. I just want to point out one thing. The number of followers, I think, should not be the main purpose of engaging on social media. And this is something that we've been pushing with diplomacy, it's the connections that you can make on social media, especially through Twitter. Yes, Twitter is not as big as Facebook, but on Twitter you can follow someone. If that person follows you back, you have a connection, and you can have a private conversation. You can send direct messages, which are no longer limited to 140 characters. You can send entire press releases if you want to. And that, I think, is a level of connection, of diplomacy that is happening. And I'm very proud to say that the diplomacy Twitter account, which we set up 5 years ago, is followed by 170 heads of state and government, and I actually do send them direct messages whenever a new study comes out, offering embargoed copy, and I can tell you, not only are we now connected on Twitter, but also via email with these heads of state. And I also have lists of 1,400 journalists on this Twitter account who I can send one direct message to alert them about the new study. So I think that's an aspect of Twitter that many people don't really see, so you don't have to have the millions of followers, you have to have the right ones. So it's really the quality that counts. And just looking at the data of the international organizations, who do you think is the best connected? We're now looking at Twitter in Geneva. Which Genevan organization, embassy, international organization, NGO is the best connected?
How do you define
mutual connections with peers in that subset of the organizations we analyzed?
The United Nations.
Okay.
Absolutely. UN Geneva, 67 mutual accounts. Number 2.
World Health Organization.
It's the US mission. No, the World Health Organization doesn't follow anyone else. And neither does the World Economic Forum. There's not that kind of interaction. So it's the US mission, followed by the UN Migration, formerly IOM, and then the UK mission to Geneva. I don't know if they're in the room, with 44 mutual connections, probably of other missions. France and Sweden and the Mexican mission doing quite well also, with more than 30 mutual connections. And I think this is something that money can't buy. You can't, you can probably buy followers, which none of the organizations do. But, this is something, the quality of the followers is something that you have to earn. And this is something that I really want to stress in terms of, also helping you to spread your message. When I send tweets on diplomacy, I make sure I tag the right people in the picture. So, hopefully they might, share that tweet on their profiles, and often they have more followers than we do. So that's really kind of important. And although I see now a tendency, and I think everybody thinks about the new use of Twitter, especially, and social media by the new US President Donald Trump, which I personally have to say I was always a big fan of the personal engagement of heads of state and government. I love it when they can, sit down and write their own tweets until, we see what is happening with the US president, who uses social media very, very effectively, be it on Twitter or on Facebook. Every single post makes headlines, not only in the evening news, makes global headlines, and has massive impact. And I was just talking to our friends from the Indian mission here. I've seen that also the Indian foreign minister adopted a very blunt style. It's no longer diplomatic niceties. Now you can, make very, very clear, hard-hitting policy statements using Twitter, and that is something that I'm a bit afraid of. I don't know if the diplomatic language will change. If we will be more blunt in the interaction, the digital interaction. I'm a bit afraid of that, but of course, you have to have you have to tailor your message, and have to write a message that it travels, to that your posts are getting shared. So that's something that I'm a bit worried about. On the other hand, what we see is, and Mike has shown it, what the World Economic Forum does is video. We're seeing now also the engagement of world leaders on Facebook live video. It's not just the press conference that is being filmed and broadcast on TV at the same time on Facebook Live and on Periscope, but we also see a handful of leaders engaging directly, personally, just whipping out their mobile phone and basically hitting that live button and go live, interacting with their audience, even replying to comments. That is, there are tools in place for verified accounts, for example, on Facebook, which allow you to kind of vet the comments, so you're not inundated with negativity, which of course we do have to live with. So those are kind of the trends we see currently, and in terms of kind of promoting Geneva, well, I think every single international organization here should actually geotag their posts from Geneva. That would really help the canton, to put Geneva out as the the European capital of the UN organization. So I think that's kind of that's what I would see as a very easy solution to push Geneva.
Great, Matthias. Let me see hope it works. That's fine. Thank you for providing this really insights from the practice, because you're following all of those developments, and it's great that you're followed with so many heads of state. I hope you will send the message from our events to all of them, and they will read it carefully. You highlighted a few underlying messages. One is the question of connection, return on investment, and what is particularly interesting for diplomatic Geneva is how to maintain diplomatic credentials, whether through the language, while developing social media credentials, because they're different. Diplomatic credentials carries the certain level of using the certain language, although changes are happening, and which is not necessarily something which can create social media credentials, which requires, as we heard, direct message, sometimes provoking, engaging. Therefore, that dynamics is just idea for discussion and possibly reflections how these two parallel worlds can be sometimes contradicting, can be bridged, and I'm sure we will hear more in our discussion on the different aspect of diplomacy. Thank you once more. We'll now turn to Jon Mark, and Jon, we just heard that Twitter is a well-established social media platform, and your platform is being developed to foster political communication online, political communication. Could you tell us something about this new approach to digital outreach and examples of GovFaces?
Yeah, thanks for having me. We have a way of thinking in GovFaces, and we have a metric, a framework for kind of online communication, and it's 3 pillars. So the first pillar is diffusion. That's clear. That's your area of specialty. It's Twitter, Facebook. It's channels that get the message out. Another is organization. So that's your standard website. So you've got a lot of information. You're making it simple to understand and simple to digest. And our argument the whole time, and as we're sitting here at an engagement conference, is that third pillar is completely missed. Everybody talks about engagement. Everybody talks about interacting with people, but nobody's really doing it. And our argument is that it's not, and I'm going to stir the pot a little bit. Our argument is it's not a video, and our argument is that it's not an infographic, and our argument is that it's not just a post on Facebook. And the reason that that's tough is because there's a lot of human capital behind it, because it takes a lot of time to interact with people. When you're sending an email, I mean, how long does it take us to crank out an email? Minimum 10 minutes, right? And so if you have a head of state or an ambassador who's sitting there and has got 1,000 emails in their inbox, how in the world is that going to happen? And so GovFaces started from that premise. Our aha moment was in 2012 with Barack Obama's Reddit, Ask Me Anything, that was unannounced, and within an hour became the second largest internet event of the year. And essentially our function, the way we structured our platform and our concept comes from the upvote, downvote. So that's the scale. Even an upvote, that is a way to engage with someone at scale. And so what we've done is we've had a platform and we've implemented it and learned 3 big lessons over the past 3 to 4 years. Our first implementation was in Brussels within the context of the 2014 EU elections. And we went super macro. We had big ideas and we were young and we said we're going to go in and we're going to make the EU talk to each other during these elections. And we had more success than we thought we would have. But it wasn't due to anything that we did. Our lesson was, since we had about 100 members of the European Parliament, we were present in 15 countries, and we got some decent press in the media. But the success was purely due to our communities in those 15 countries. And so what we did was we went around to universities, and we got dynamic student leaders to stir up the supply side of information towards these big people. And so when you looked at Portugal or Spain or the Netherlands or the UK or Italy, we had really, really dynamic pockets of conversation heading upwards to those members of the European Parliament, being vetted with an upvote or downvote. And then we saw that the quality of the content that these people were putting forward, again, from the left to the extreme left to the extreme right, was really, really interesting. And then what was even more interesting was how journalists picked up on it, because it was quality information and it was driven from the community, and so that made it relevant for journalists to write about. Second, so communities matter. That's lesson 1. Lesson 2, the context 2, is we went super macro, we went super micro to Portsmouth, Southampton in the UK. So after we left the EU, we said, there's interesting elections coming up in 2015, and so we went to the UK and we said, what can we do there? So we buried ourselves for 15 months in the south of England, and we studied the flow of information at the local level. And we had every local politician in Portsmouth, Southampton on board. And we did the same thing, the same model that we did at the level of the EU, we did in the south of England. But what was interesting was the lesson we learned was context matters. And so we had 50 to 70% response rates from all of these local politicians, ranging from members of the parliament down to city councillors. And 50 to 60% response rates when they're getting 100 questions, 150 questions on issues, that's pretty significant for a little startup. When we were doing the onboarding, we had no legitimacy. We're not British. We were 2 American guys, a Romanian, and a guy from Switzerland. And so we had no personal legitimacy in that context. In fact, probably the worst level of legitimacy. And so what we learned was that around the elections, as we tailored it to issues that were important there, energy was just streamed. I mean, there was a conversation on foxes getting run over in the streets, and that was a huge, huge event for us, and we got tons of attention. And so when you're looking at, within the context of international organizations, keep in mind, as has been mentioned, that the issues and the timing and the context matters tremendously. Macro to micro to meso. And so we came to Switzerland, our home where we were based, and we learned this lesson, that legitimacy is important. And so we said the privacy, data protection, transparency was an issue, and we hooked up with 3 organizations based on the left side of Switzerland that were dealing with that. And they had a big political agenda. The issue of privacy, data transparency in Switzerland's like 3 steps behind on this issue, and they really wanted to push it. And the one thing, and what we were able to convince them of, and our big bold idea, was that you don't have any kind of community if it's not in one place. And I sat down with the organizer and I said, put your finger on the internet, go to the website and put your finger on the place where all of the experts in Switzerland are talking about the issue of privacy, data protection, transparency. And this was the top academic in the issue, on that issue in Switzerland, and he couldn't do it. So I said, here, take our tool, we'll white label it for you, and we'll create that community and provide a framework to organize and scale verified conversation in Switzerland on that issue. Again, meso level. What was important was that everybody on there was not one voice in Switzerland that was missing, whether you're a politician, a journalist, an academic, who had a stake in that conversation that wasn't on there. It was only about 150 people. But what was important was that it had every ounce of legitimacy that we needed for that one topic, and it went straight to the parliament. Now, it's stuck for political reasons in that, but it's there. And the rapidity with which it shot to the top was pretty impressive, again, for a group of Americans, Romanians, and a Swiss guy. So legitimacy matters. And I guess the point of it all is this. What we're doing now is we're kind of combining it all, and we're planted just up the road in the DG's office at UNOG. And we're talking about the SDGs. And so we have, for us, it's kind of a perfect combination. So we're applying our platform, so sdgstories.com, which will be launching in April. And what we're doing now is we're onboarding the best people in the world that you can imagine to talk about the SDGs. We're keeping in mind that communities matter. So we're going around to organizations, and we're taking the organizations that are leading, whether it's on water, whether it's on women's rights, whether it's on labor. And we're getting those organizations to own those conversations on those SDGs, because it's not us. I'm not an expert. Azadeh is not an expert. The DG is not even an expert, but the organizations are. And then we're launching it, and we're creating a context, so we're running it like a conference. And so we're creating a way for the world's leaders, celebrities, and high-level figures to come on at scale and talk with the public about the SDGs. Because again, the argument is, right now, today, place your finger on the internet of where this conversation's happening about these 17 goals that we've made our major operative framework until 2030. It's not there. And so our argument is starting with verified conversation at scale, and that's in essence what GovFaces is doing.
Thank you, Irma, for a great drawing this line from the sort of 30,000 feet to the ground where things are happening, and highlighting one important aspect, which is the context, which matters. I experienced myself this question of SDGs, perception of SDGs. In Geneva we talk a lot about SDGs. It is the one of the key concepts. I think sometimes going even too far. And I went to attend a few events in countries in Asia and Europe, and out of the excitement of the Geneva excitement, I went there, and then I realized people say, yes, we heard it was adopted, yeah, we'll try to do something. But then you realize on that issue, and probably it's going to be our major challenge on SDGs, there is not as wide a sort of understanding what it is all about outside Geneva or New York or a few major centers. And it's great to hear that you're putting your expertise gathered all over Europe and the world into making it possible. And that leads me to our next speaker, Azadeh, who is leading the perception change project. And I guess Azadeh, the SDGs are definitely one of the issues where the many questions around the perception of the UN, multilateral diplomacy, which Thomas mentioned, and the other colleagues, is going to be in the focus, because they are concrete. We were speaking about housing, health, poverty, and that's probably provides the framework for a change of perception and more understanding. Please.
Okay, thank you. Yes, so the Perception Change Project just arrived in January, and I have to pay tribute for the work that has been done during 2 years by my predecessor, Carolina Rodriguez, and her team. Was launched by the Director General of the United Nations in Geneva. And the first idea was to try to gather all the work that is done in Geneva and to highlight the impact of the work that is done by all the organizations in Geneva. So it's more a space in which we can combine all our efforts and all our work to better communicate and to better influence the people around the world. And this is where we have to change the perception. Now, is it really a question of changing perception? I think that for the United Nations and for the international organizations, it's not that we're going from a bad perception to a good perception. I see that many times there is no perception, and that we have to communicate more on the things that we're doing. And this is what then automatically will be taken by the journalists, and then we have to make it more and more as constructive news or positive news about what we're doing. So for the time being, the Perception Change Project has 101 members. We gather once a month at the Palais des Nations. Among the members we have international organizations, academia, Now we're starting with 2 or 3 missions, so all the missions are invited, so we can have at the end of the year more members. And then we're trying to see what are the better ways to tell the story. So our friend from you were saying, how to better tell the story. So we have many ways of telling the story. Now, regarding the SDGs, there is one goal that we have to reach, is that 2 billion people will know about the SDGs at the end of 2017. Now, Geneva is kind of easy, but we started a campaign with the with Duty-Free, which is a duty-free company around the world, and we started a campaign in Geneva. It went to Heathrow, now it went to Zurich, and now we're planning to do a campaign in which we really have big screens on the SDGs, so people can come. So, for example, at the Davos conference, we had the launch of this campaign in Zurich. Now, what we are seeing is that people can see the SDGs, but people doesn't know what the SDGs are. So you really have to stop the people. You have to tell them, do you know about the SDGs? People, most of the time, they don't know about the SDGs. So, for example, in Zurich, we installed a big Wheel of Fortune with all the SDGs. So people, they think they will win something, no, they will come. And then we're telling them about the SDGs, and then people are interested. But there is something more that we have to do, is that we have to explain to them about the SDGs, and then we have to tell them what they can do. And this is a work that we have to do all together, because I think that in every organization, everybody knows the 10 things that we could do for the SDGs. So these are one of the things that we're doing at the Perception Change Project. John Mark forgot to mention one fantastic product of the Perception Change Project, with the Fairy Tales for a Fairy World. So it's a way to engage young people into stories with fairy tales related to SDGs. And this will be linked to this conversation that GovFaces are going to start. So we have many other projects. So thanks to the Canton de Genève, now we have a page at the Genève International website in which we can put all the things that International Geneva is doing. One big project is something called the Geneva Data. Many times people come into Geneva, they don't know where to go to find the information of all of us. So now there is a portal in which we can put all the information, basic information about the organizations. For example, we have been discussing internally on the thousands of campaigns we're doing in the UN here, the UN, international organizations, NGOs in Geneva. Maybe we have to put them all together, so at least people can go to the same page and try to see, what is happening. So ideally, at some point, prices are going to organizations. Maybe one day prices have to go to topics, in which we're discussing a topic, and then we will have more impact probably. And then people will know that it's different for the external public to see which organization is doing what. We're working a lot into acronyms, but it's true that there is a lot of work. And for example, I don't know, even on migration, many organizations are working on migration. So everybody can put their own input. And I'm taking the geolocalization about Geneva. It's a fantastic way of promoting Geneva.
Thank you very much, Ziad. We got quite a few concrete insights, like geolocalization. We'll use it as well. Thank you very much, Matthias. We got, let's say, from the technical, there was the discussion today was interplay between technical and storytelling, question of context, question of empathy, developing interrelations, and deciding what is the real limit of the digital communication. Our experience, we work in the field of internet governance and digital policy, which is very technical, but we're realizing more and more that for digital issues you need analog solution. You need to knock on the doors, you need to talk to people, you need to engage, you need to listen, and I guess it applies to any field. Therefore, this is one idea. What are the ultimate limits of the sort of digital communication? And I think Jean-Marc indicated a few indications where you had to go on the spot, on the train, and literally go from, I hope, pub to pub in UK, and to see what is the sort of understanding, what is dynamics in the group. I'm sure that I have many questions, but I won't monopolize my moderating position. I would like to invite you to reflect on these 3 introductory statements with your questions, comments, suggestions, like suggestion that we introduce topic award. Thank you, that's a really great idea. The floor is yours. Please introduce yourself before you make a comment on ask question. Any volunteer? Yep. The first question always difficult. Okay, let me then make one suggestion while you are processing and coming to the questions for our presenters. At the end of the year, we will host here in Geneva Internet Governance Forum, which is the major gathering of basically Internet governance community worldwide, attended by approximately 2,000 to 3,000 people. That event is important event. We are involved in internet governance, but we realize that internet governance as a topic doesn't make people excited, to put it mildly. And then we, in our discussion, we decided to make a build-up events toward the Internet Governance Forum around the issue of data. Therefore, data, and it's great that you mentioned data in Geneva, will be the underlying theme. Data from the privacy protection, human rights perspective, security perspective, economic perspective as the basis of the model, development, socio-culture, and you name it and you have it. And it will be in a way backbone from now onwards till the IGF in late December. The date is not very fortunately just before Christmas, week before Christmas, but I'm sure the topic itself will excite many people. Will be basically data, also data in artificial intelligence, data and ethics, the question of the ethics, how we are going to deal with ethical aspects of the use of the data. Therefore, that is going, the more information will be coming on that in this process. We are, just this building, we realized recently, and I was really annoyed with for our ignorance, is one of the most interesting and powerful data management organization worldwide. Mm-hmm. They collect the data about weather forecast, they exchange weather forecast data on just-in-time basis. They have the observation stations all over the world, from Arctic to Antarctic, from east to west. They collect this data. They don't process it here in the building, but they coordinate from this building. Therefore, WMO is the par excellence data organization, or CERN is the biggest generator of data worldwide. Mm-hmm. Because whatever is coming from the tunnel is going into the data. We call it finding Ubers of knowledge in Geneva, like drivers using their cars which were kept in garage. There are a lot of interesting resources around data in Geneva. And I just mentioned two, and wherever we go in this preliminary discussion, we find really unique examples on the data management. And challenges. The WHO is more focused on question of challenge, protection of medical data, privacy, and other issues. Therefore, it will be quite an interesting discussion ahead of us. It was, I monopolized the possibility, chance that there were no questions. Now the floor is yours. I'm sure okay, could you introduce yourself, please?
Irani from the International Bureau of Education, which is under UNESCO. So we're active on social media, but we have very academic mandate, so it's not going to with the wider public issue. Whereas the Centre of Excellence in Curriculum. So I guess our aim would be what you mentioned about interaction and dialogue. And also what you had mentioned about topics. So for me, I think our aim is quality education for all and the SDG 4. So what I would love is more organisations work together collaboratively, not to promote themselves and increase their followers, but to actually work together to achieve that goal and to kind of share information and different perspectives in that way. So I kind of feel it touches on what all of you have talked about, and I guess it would just be interesting to continue the discussion about how we do that. And the other thing is, I think social media has a lot of egos at the moment, so a lot of organisations want to tell everyone what they're doing and how great they are. They might have a leader who wants to be promoted, and their opinion, and to be promoted over and above these kind of grassroots stories or storytelling. So that's a challenge I think we face, and maybe other organisations. So it'd be interesting to know how you can really change that idea that you don't just have to tell people through social media, but it's a platform for engagement and ownership by other people, not you or your organisation.
Therefore, we don't have only the echo chamber, but also ego chamber these days, and or effect. Thank you for this two really pertinent questions, and we'll see if there are any other comments, and then I will ask panelists to reflect on the comments and questions. We have a question over there.
Hi, my name is Alexander. I'm head of global engagement at Interpeace, and thank you for this very insightful comments and experience. One thing that we saw partially with Donald Trump's election, but also with Brexit, is what we call the bubble effect, is that we seem to be able to engage with like thousands of people on social media. We believe that we convinced everyone that our message went out, but basically we realized that it went out to a very limited number of people. And this is very simple. It's because on Twitter we follow those who are more or less close to our minds and our interests, right? And even if we feel that we have like lots of positive reaction on a Twitter, on a tweet, it doesn't mean that we've convinced people. And to be a bit the devil's advocate, I saw the very good campaign, and I really welcome the Perception Change Project. So don't take that as a negative comment. But for example, when I saw that at the airport, I thought it's beautiful, it's great, and it's nice that we see a lot of advertisements. But actually, people at the airport are those highly globalized citizens that are, especially in Geneva, more or less likely to know about the SDGs. And I'm wondering, what can we do in order to reach out to those who are precisely not necessarily taking planes and treating. So I think that's related to that bubble effect. Thanks.
Thank you. We have quite a few interesting, thank you very much for topics now. One which resonate in the both comments and questions were this about silos or bubble effect, silos staying within your community. And we've been trying quite a few experiments, and we in our activities at least, and it would be interesting to hear from all of you, we realize that you cannot break the silos. And not necessarily because of bad intentions of people, but simple people tend to socialize in their small communities. They share acronyms, we have limited time, 24 hours, energy, and probably the better approach is to accept the defeat, that we cannot break the silos, and try to see what we can do realistically, at least to inform different silos what's going on in different spaces. Let's say in digital field, that human rights community knows that there are discussions in WTO that can affect human rights community and vice versa. And that's probably one interesting issue and question for all of you, but in particular for Aziad on that challenge, how to overcome the silos. Accepting our approach that it's almost next to impossible, and seeing what can be done, or maybe it is possible. Would you?
Okay, so if we take, for example, SDG 4 now, so we have one product, if I can call it like this, at the PCP, which is we gather together to produce infographics together. So this year, for example, it would be 12 infographics each month on one SDG. So we're asking all the agencies to give us the information. We make the infographics, so we have the designers. We don't have the video makers yet, but we will ask you, for example. And then so we have this product, and then we share it with everybody, and everybody can use it. So that's a way of functional approach. Yes, a functional approach. So this one would be one. Now, in relation to the SDGs in the airports, you're right. It's more, for example, in Zurich, the people that were really stopping and that said, "Oh, this is so cool," were the people that were going to Davos. But somehow, I think that they are also the decision makers, and they are the ones that are accountable for the SDGs too, and they are the ones who are going to influence the governments. So this is one of the people. Then, of course, we're doing many other campaigns within the UN, of course. For the public in general, but this is more, yes, for the airports, it's true. And then on breaking the silos, we are engaging the youth also. We're bringing, thanks to the DiploFoundation here, young people to the Palais to listen to experts, not to organizations, on a very specific topic, to educate them, to show them how to report on these subjects. So yeah, it's a space within the UN that is open to all the other organizations.
Great. There are 3 strategic boards which you may use when the diplomats drive outside through this gate, outside the UN. There are 3 boards for advertising, and I think it would be ideal when they're coming outside of the UN to have some message which could be adjusted to special diplomatic community, because most of them will be passing through this gate. This is just one tip which came now to my mind after the Zurich example. Jean-Marc and Matthias, what could be done to move from ego to eco and eco chambers to the real connectivity and communication? And your comments to the comments that we heard from the participants. Matthias, would you like to reflect?
I don't know if we can speak about ego chambers. What we've seen in our studies is the personal engagement of executives, of leaders of international organizations, heads of state and government is much more effective than the institutional accounts, because there is a personality that you can relate with. And I'm a big fan of that engagement. I wouldn't call it, ego chamber. I want to see more people, opening up, being accessible. If an executive can do a press conference, why can't he do then, a Facebook Live session? And actually doing it himself. I think there's lots of things to do. And when I look at institutional pages or Twitter accounts, I don't have that, personal engagement. I know there's some which I really like. I'm German, but I think Germans have no sense of humor, but the German Foreign Ministry certainly does on their Facebook page, which is one of the best in terms of, because you realize there's a social media manager behind it who loves his work. So it's an institutional page which is very, but the page of Angela Merkel still has more followers. So I think we should really use those personalities to push messages out. So I think this is not I'm a big fan of that. So I wouldn't say we shouldn't.
Matthias, our stereotypes about the humor in European nations is challenged by the videos Germany second, Switzerland second, which are getting real viral. Netherlands as the first one, therefore it's...
The Swiss video is second, I have to say. I've seen them all.
Jean-Marc, please.
Those are funny. So I was just back in the States, and I'm from the rural South, so I'm from Mississippi. And so I lived in 2 worlds. One world is here in Geneva, and one world is in the farms of the southern U.S. And so I was standing there, and my family likes to hunt, and so I was standing there with my hunting buddies out next to this pickup truck, and they were asking what I was doing, and I said, well, I'm helping make this website for the UN on the SDGs. And so that's a lot of letters. And I said, well, and then it was a great confrontation. It was a great challenge, because it was the first time that I had to communicate something that happens here and here to people who are not idiots. They're smart. I mean, these are well-educated, caring people. And they had never heard of the SDGs. I was in the US for 4 months, and not one person I met with had heard of the SDGs, which is nuts. And so as I was explaining this, I had to look closely at what these people were interested in. And you know what? Those friends standing out by the pickup truck in the farm field were interested in biodiversity, and they were interested in climate change. And the people that I want to bring onto our conversation under Director General Mueller is Ducks Unlimited. I don't know if you've heard of it, but it's this big organization in the U.S. that has to do with conservation of wetlands. And so there's ways, and I'm challenging, I think there really are ways to reach down to, if we're going to, the lowest levels, and communicate these SDGs. And so I'm not convinced that we have to stay in an echo chamber. Rebecca, I was just going to say, with regard to how we speak, if I'm in a relationship, if I am with my wife or my girlfriend, and I speak at, and my entire communication with her, from the time that I arrive after work to the time that we go to bed, is me speaking at her, how successful is that relationship going to be? not successful. And so I don't know why we expect to have the same different dynamics with our social media accounts, really. Because we're sitting here and we're saying, you know, just we have the content, we have the legitimacy, we have the profile, we have the weight of the world behind us. But for some reason we think that standard relational dynamics don't apply to us. And so that's one thing that I'm pretty high on, is finding a way to, and it's not totally possible. There's no way you can scale an intimate conversation, intimate coffee, or a glass of wine, but there are ways, there are mechanisms, that's our bet, that's our wager, that there are mechanisms to at least get it to a next level from what we're at now in terms of engagement interaction.
Thank you, Jean-Marc, for a lovely story connecting the southern United States and the Geneva discussions, and pointing to the points that may not be framed as SDGs, but they are basically related to SDGs, and that's probably a great challenge that you will have at the UN to come to 2 billion people who are aware of SDGs. Well, that's great, and I invite all of you to help the UN, to help Perception Change Project and all organization in this noble task, which is not only related to SDGs but also saving development agenda, multilateralism, and many side issues. We have a comment here before I close the session.
Hi, my name is Alice Maillot from the ICRC. I have a question regarding the engagement. I suppose that engagement can happen in a safe environment. So what do you suggest for people who wish to engage but within a non-safe environment? So using social media but being like monitored, so they can't really express themselves the way they want to. So basically their engagement is not really, there is a barrier, so proper engagement.
I'd give the same answer I would give to teachers who deal with kids. And obviously, if we're connecting leaders with children in elementary schools, obviously they have identities that need to be protected. But if you're talking within the context of the ICRC, one thing that I would say is that there are representatives. And so what we've done, we did this in the UK especially, is we would have representatives speaking on behalf of people who, you know, couldn't necessarily be represented online. And those representatives perhaps could be the ICRC delegates themselves, and that they would receive feedback and they would be verified to then engage within a forum that was, again, verified. And so it would be creating a system of channeling that information upward through representatives that were safer.
Thank you, Jean-Marc. I would like really to thank three of you and our presenters during the award session for providing so many insights and ideas for discussion, which is very useful. I think we are passing the period of social media utopia and generally utopia, although utopia sometimes is useful and needed, and there is a hard realpolitik all over the places, and this clear discussion on the real impact, the down to earth, what is the return of investment, what we can change is needed, and this afternoon discussion was small contribution in this direction on the rather long road that we have to walk in order to rebuild inclusive pro-development, at least perception, if not just the multilateralism itself. At the Geneva Internet Platform, we are going to continue with the Geneva Engage discussions in informal way, probably with the bi-monthly gatherings of social media activists together with Perception Change Project and all colleagues who were involved in it. It will be very bottom-up initiative, depending also on your suggestions and topics that we would like to introduce, with ultimately major aim to help small missions, small organizations to strengthen their voice, to have their voice, louder voices to be heard in their communities, back in their countries or topic communities, as you indicated. Well, with this, I would like to invite you to thank our panelists and award winners for their great presentation, and to invite
Yeah, no, because I had suggested to her the geolocation a long time ago.
No, but absolutely, but no, thank you. And I have one idea for your Geneva data. No, for your data.
Thank you very much for having me.
No, the geolocation, absolutely. But it's easy to use, geolocation. It's easy to use.
We just have to have the settings and tweak the setting.
And that's it. But this is, no, but tomorrow will be mandatory in the growing office. Come on, but who will know? What's the problem? Virginia hasn't gone. No, Michael Molly will have it. If I tell him. No, I know. The product is just amazing.
It's really not. We're talking about, a billion-man conversation. We'd love to have a conversation on issues. What you're doing sounds like it's going on. So let me give you that. I'd love to have you come up to the forum one day, maybe show us what you've done. We do have great
It's not
because it's like tech is easy. There are all sorts of platforms that do writers.